Nampokela bakonfa kuno na ndeno ya malimba nembila ya Mkushi pa 92.7 FM kanshi ndi muntu wenu Ebron Mumba nakambi makosa mukalelo twakwateli ashilimo line litwala bile ponde bona milongo ishashila ukoko nshiponeka na kulabila na abandi nabo muno na ndeno ya malimba ikale nchipichipi mumfwe kuli ashili akuti nobune nakambi ili ashi ilingaleta newe ntanshi kanshi bakonfa wesu twakuba bonse mwe awala jonse twakuba bonse pa 92.7 FM kanshi kwa bwana kuposa ne kapindi ndineshuko ili akusangwa na ba Proculious Mwape abo abali ni ba Light of Zambia Movement President kanshi ndebona no muko wa fumineko nyabo aba labile fintu ifi akutina bunene kulabila ifi ilangulushi yabo lingaba ba Mwape wesu kubati ni ba Light of Zambia Movement President mwaiseni ku program
natotera ba mumba wesu
twatota kanshi abana kubana bo mumpindi ina kubana mwe apo atwakwisa kulabira nali kumakuli umfuila ifintu ifi akuti ene bwingi mukutatikira po chabe ndebo na ichina bwingi umuku wa kulekeresha lima kumene po na Proculious Mwape abali ba Light of Zambia Movement President bali labile fintu ifi akuti no bwingi ifi na kambi munga fwa ishoku umfuila po na fimbi ifi batu pekanishisheko. Mr. Mwape, as the president of the Light of Zambia movement, just to start with, as we dive deeper into Ubuntu mode of governance, in the previous episode, you talked about how you have picked some good attributes, democracy, and fused them into traditional leadership to form Ubuntu mode of governance. And I would like to know more about what are some of these attributes that you've brought in place. Kanshindebo na mukola bila pali ashiria ifi Ubuntu ukukumana kuli ashiri ama isosele ne da democracy umumu wala bile fintu ifi akubimba mona shika nkomba nomba mapeka nyando findo ifi mubikile po bakweba ati achina bwengi ba umfuikisha muri ifi fintu.
Okay, nadotera ba mumba wesu last time twalilandile pa kweba ati as Light of Zambia movement tulefa okufumyako democracy, that is representative democracy in Zambia, nokuletamo Ubuntu mode of governance. Now, just to do a recap of what we spoke about last time. Twalilabile pama issues zoto akwatana democracy. If your democracy have to develop ichalo chesu Zambia for a very long period of time, ulo tubomsha democracy. And even today as we speak, imisebo yesu chilimatipa ama hospitals yesu tamulimiti ama schools yesu ayengali they are not to the standard. Mlesanga kwa yambia kulilwa kale yambi ya nemitengesha alionaika malata ya alibola. So we are saying the reason why we are suffering and struggling all this much is because of the system of governance that we are using called representative democracy. Nomba ifo pamonga wa Light of Zambia tulera ndokweba ati nga tulina okuchita efintu ifi right for ourselves and for our future generations, then we have to devise a new system of governance. This is now the one we are calling Ubuntu model of governance. So Ubuntu model of governance is basically a combination or an hybrid system. It is a combination of two systems, namely representative democracy and traditional leadership. Because I think every one of us can agree with me that before the colonizers came into our country, Zambia, they found us in the hands of traditional leaders. And that is the only system of leadership that we knew as a people. Now, when they came in, they somehow found a way of sidelining these traditional leaders and implemented their own system of governance, which we are using up to today. So now we are saying, no, I think it's about time we formulated a system of governance that would work well with us. So now to answer your question, the good attributes that we've picked from democracy and the good attributes that we've picked from traditional leadership. First of all, I think I have to talk about the issues that we had with traditional leadership. when the colonizers came, like I said, they found us in the hands of the traditional leaders. But how did the colonizer manage to grab us away from the hands of our traditional leaders, construct their own system of leadership, and impose it on us? It's because my traditional leaders bali kweteko a certain weakness. You see, and this weakness that I'm talking about is failing to work together. So it was so easy because they were balkanized. There is this chiefdom this side, another chiefdom that side, another chiefdom that side, and they are not in good relations with each other. As a result, it was so easy for this colonizer. Remember the adage which goes, divided we fall, united we stand. So it was so easy for the colonizers to come and capitalize on our weakness of being divided, of not being unified as a single state. So they started coming up with deals, and for the most part it was to do with natural resource mining rights. You see that, eh? So when this British South African company came into Zambia under the leadership of John Cecil Rhodes, he saw a lot of copper deposits, especially on the copper belt. So what did he do? He went into agreements with these traditional leaders of that particular land. You see? In the process, because he wanted people to be working in those mines that he was opening up, then he decided to introduce what is called poll tax and hat tax, so that people could be compelled to start using the money that we today know as money. Remember, before the coming in of the colonizers, we depended on barter system and not these banknotes and coins. So now, because they really wanted to introduce that system of doing business, they introduced taxation. So when people started now, when they were afraid of failing to meet the obligations of paying tax, they were forced to go and work in the mines so that they could raise a bit of money so that they're able to pay their taxes. You see that? And the ones that made this possible was actually the traditional leaders, because they became now more like the tax-paying agents, for those of you that understand taxation. So these guys, or traditional leaders, started more like telling their people and compelling their people to pay tax. You see, not to them, but to the colonial administrative office. So in the process, we got colonized. You see that, eh? So sure. In that, we can see some kind of a weakness on the part of traditional leadership. Now, again, we've tested democracy, this system of governance that we are using today. We've worked with it from 1964 to 1968. Then we moved into one-party participatory democracy in the 1973, going forward up to 1991. So, the days of democracy from 1964 to 1968 going forward, and starting from 1991 up to where we are today, we've been using democracy. And what is it that we can point at as development that has come forward from this democracy? You see, it is very little. And that's why we are saying, no, democracy as a system of governance has failed us. Therefore, let us find means of devising a system that is going to attend to our needs and put our interests in front, before the interests of the colonizers. So, what we've done in Ubuntu model of governance, we want traditional leaders to become leaders of their chiefdoms, respective chiefdoms, politically, socially, and economically. That means a chief now, infumu iresa mukuba in full leadership, not if baba kunse n'okubeba bati imwe ni cultural heritage, imwe ni ma traditional issues ifye. We want infumu okuba eshaba eshi overseer of their particular chiefdoms, politically, socially, and economically. When this happens, we know that infumu yeka paruwaiko. running a chiefdom kuya ku Kabanga, kuya ku Kapinda, kaku kusokuya na kuisa and in all these places. Therefore, they will need to have a prime minister. Now, this prime minister, that is where democracy is now coming in. This prime minister is going to be elected by the people of that particular chiefdom. So in every chiefdom, we are going to be having prime ministers to the chief. So now, this prime minister will be elected by the people just for that chiefdom, and they will be the ones that will be running the affairs on behalf of the chief in that particular chiefdom. Maimaka?
Just sorry to cut you short, President Mwape. I think you've talked about the issue of having the prime minister. So my question is, are those people going to stand in position of the parliamentary point of view?
No, not the way we know it, because what we are trying to avoid is representative type of democracy. So the democracy that I've just described here, where the prime minister is in the chiefdom, and the electorates to the prime minister are right in that very chiefdom. That means now what we are implementing is direct democracy. There is no representation to say they'll go to parliament to speak on behalf of those people. No. Instead, the ones that will be meeting at national level are traditional leaders themselves. So we are constituting what we are calling the Council of 70. Now, the Council of 70 will be constituted by electing 7 chiefs from each province. Remember, we have 10 provinces in Zambia. So each province is going to give us 7 chiefs. And these chiefs are going to be meeting at national level to constitute what we are calling the Council of 70. You see that? Now, sure. These chiefs are going to be elected by their fellow chiefs. For example, if we have, in the case of Central Province, we have 39 chiefs. So these 39 chiefs are going to meet at a certain place, then elect 7 of them from amongst themselves. These 7 are the ones that will be representing the Central Province at national level in the National Assembly. You see that?
Okay.
Now, because these traditional leaders are not elected by the elections that we know today, therefore, what we have at national level is a more I'm trying to find a better word to use. Yes, we are going to have a lot of sanity at national level in parliament and in the National Assembly, if I can put it that way, because you do not expect the chiefs to start quarreling all over and over anything. Instead, what they'll be doing will be simply to sit down, look at how much we've realized. I think for those of you that listened to our broadcast that we did last time, we talked about nationalizing of natural resources. So tulepoka mamiros yonse yaleba mumino ya Ubuteko nga bwayimba mamiros ano kushitisha. Chirempia shonse bali 7 ishamfu from each province abali kumana pa national level. Bakalaika nomba no kulande ko bati nikuiso kulefa iko kupanga school. Nikuiso kulefa iko kupanga omusebo. Nikuiso kulefa iko kupanga clinic or hospital. Mwaimade nikuiso kulefa ika bridge. Ero nomba bali abaishwa ko bati kunchende asona so nifile fwa ikwa. Bashaka nya chirempia. Chiesha mfumishi pamuru pa national level. You see that?
Yeah.
Then chirempia shaperwa kuli aba chiefdoms nomba abalingire umulefa ika ama projects ukwe bati ya chitike. So if tulera ndoka twabula democracy, twabula no Ubuntu, twabika pamo. Because we like it or not, these traditional leaders will remain with us. They've been with us from the biblical times, and we are still with them today as we speak. Mwaimaka?
Yeah.
So epo tulero eshapo. Kanshi chalinga tusankanye democracy tuilete pa chiefdom level. Because tapali ukabepo ufinango kaliyo kwe bati nomba ifibailete pa chiefdom level nga inenka votera kwisi. Vonse to am chiefdom. Mwaimate? Every piece of land in Zambia belongs to a certain chiefdom. So if you belong to a chiefdom, then you have where to practice your right to vote. Mwapo mfate?
Yeah.
And then we are proposing that we should have the prime minister to the chief afuire akwata a 6-year tenure of office. So 6 years, because we want to be doing what we are calling snap elections. So snap elections will be taking place after 2 years. Now, it's not everyone in the chiefdom to participate in Muli snap elections. Instead, we are going to have what we would call an electoral college, or in our case, we are calling it term validation council. So the term validation council will be a group of people that will be nominated in that chiefdom to review the term of the prime minister. You see that?
Yeah.
So now we are proposing that every chiefdom, if they are subdivided into 7 zones. So each of these 7 zones is going to give us at least 10 nominated TVC members, term validation council members. Abanomba ebakala akumana after 2 years ukuchita review term yakwa prime minister. As this prime minister and his cabinet, of course I didn't talk about the cabinet. So the prime minister, after being elected by the general populace of that particular chiefdom, is now going to appoint 7 people to work with. These are the people now that will be manning or handling those respective zones that are going to be created in each and every chiefdom. You see that, eh?
Sure.
So these 7 ministers that will be working together with the prime minister will be not elected. Instead, they will be appointed by the prime minister, who will be elected by the people. So now I go back to the term validation council. So in the term validation council now, they will be sitting every after 2 years. Muli term yakwa prime minister nama ministers wakwe no kulolesha bushefile fotwa umfuene lyolo wale campaign oyo prime minister kwati nkampangira bridge pamumana wasona so nkamivikire inshila nkamisebuira bwino musebo lelo lokunoko nkamikulira clinic apa sona so ushali kula nangu pushepa lifilela ngo kwebati is working towards achieving that promise mwaimwate ngabamono kwebati uyu muntu tale ekitapo fotwa umfuene. What happens? They'll pass a vote of no confidence. And once they do that, the term validation council passes a vote of no confidence. That particular prime minister, nishi cabinet yakwe yaba dissolved by the chief. Then a new election will be called up. So, umulando wakwe bati kwakula ama snap elections. Chakula apelo omwenso ama prime ministers ukwebati nga shabombeshe ndeikala pofe 2 years nishi bamfumiyapo. And then CDF tukwetelelo Constituency Development Fund. If we can Chiefdom Development Fund. Because we are not going to have MPs. We are not going to have DCs. So we are only having a chiefdom. So shiri pia shonse shiri from central government ukuisa kuma local councils, they will be going to chiefdoms. So this prime minister will have a lot of financial base on which to do his project or her project and be able to make sure that he does everything that he promises people or her people.
Sorry to cut you short, President Mwape. Don't you think that this type of governance system is quite involving, whereby a lot of things will be needed, to be put in place so that things could go well? Because you've mentioned a lot of people, like 7, and you talked about 7 chiefs, and these other people. Time the number of chiefdoms that we have, don't you think that that type of governance system is quite expensive?
No, it isn't expensive. In fact, look at this, Mumba.
Yeah.
Today we have 156 constituencies in the country. That means we have 156 MPs in our National Assembly.
Yeah.
But when this system is implemented, we are saying each province is going to give us 10 chiefs to be in the National Assembly. Now we have 10 provinces. So it's going to give us 7 chiefs. We have 10 provinces. So what do we get? We get 70. Only 70 people from 156. Okay. So you can see we are reducing. It's almost, in fact, it's below half of what we have today. Of those people that will be sitting in the National Assembly. And then when we talk about those, for example, the 7 people that will be nominated in each zone from the chiefdom, look at the councillors that we have today. We have these councillors, we have council chairpersons. All these we are not going to be needing them. You see that? So we are saving a lot. We are saving a lot of money by implementing this system than the money that we spend in the current system.
Thank you so much, our dear listener. Just jumped in. This is Mkushi radio station, where I'm privileged to host President Proculious Mwape, who is the Light of Zambia movement, and is here to try, to talk about a lot of issues that has to be addressed in his, governance system, and make sure that you always be with us on a weekly basis and make sure that you learn a lot of issues. President Mwape, last time you appeared on radio, probably you talked about formulating strategic food reserve management. Please explain your concept on food reserve management under Ubuntu mode of government as compared to what is currently happening in Zambia.
All right, that's a good question, Wamumba. So before I go to that question, I think there's one more issue that I have to highlight on the first question that you asked me about leadership, or should I say chiefdoms becoming local governments. Sure. So I think there's one thing that is very cardinal that I need to mention. In Ubuntu model of governance, we make sure that chiefs are on a constitutional salary. You see that, because they'll become fully involved in the day-to-day running of the affairs of the chiefdom. Therefore, they will need a constitutional salary, a decent constitutional salary like the one that a permanent secretary today is getting. Because we believe chiefs in certain chiefdoms are engaged in doing some things that do not sit well with their people. For example, selling of land, putting up of lodge blocks, trying to levy some people here and there, because they are suffering a lot. I think you'd agree with me that ishisha mfumu ili ngishiba kwa shikalira kulusela wako akateeka olipo kateeka nga mfulusa ibapenko ka 3 pin mwe wazana allowance nisha ukeneko bakulayikalirapo. Now look at the office of the chief, how honorable and important and big it is. You cannot reduce them to such kind of a life, you see. So we are saying these chiefs, they deserve a decent salary from the government, from the central government for that matter, and a decent one like the one that the permanent secretary is getting today. There are very few, so we cannot say there will be a drain on the national treasury. No, these are very few, and well, they are our leaders. So definitely we have to find a sustainable way of keeping them happy and a sustainable way of making them be able to discharge their duties properly. Remember, if you do not give them balando kwe bati atingala munga yachula nechanila. So ishisha mfumunga shakula achula. Shakula aliyechani. Ukuli yechani kuti kwapiwa nombo kufumia abantu hapo bekere mu chiefdom. Fumeni po apandefo andete po investor pakwa yakwate moka ka something. Mwemade. Nomanga balepo ka salary ikulu from government. Chindo chikalengo kya mkuimia abantu. Tapapo. Because bali ninchina bachindi kwa bwino balingiro kuchindama. So number coming to the question that you asked. Sorry, nala banokula yacho chani.
Over the food reserve.
Food reserve agents.
How are going to manage that system?
Food reserve, okay. Yeah, so katuishinga mwalista notice every year. I think tulakwate outcry from the masses, the people of Zambia, including myself, because I'm part of the people of Zambia. Yeah. That umtengo wabunga wadula. And this trend has been like that since the time of I think ishi kushakulekelesha kwa Kaunda, Kenneth Kaunda. Ubunga bwayambira kushupa and people started rioting here and there. Until today, tatuwa balance up with issue yakwe to solve wino it is now well taken care of. So I feel the reason why it is like that is because we have a flawed system of management of strategic food reserves. Hii strategic food reserve management system twakwata yakwe bati ba FRA baba mu mino ya central government benanga bashitafilia, for example bashita mataba, which is the staple food for Zambia. Bashita mataba, then they will store them in their strategic reserves, but you get the ultimate power to issue that food or to issue that grain to the millers or to whoever. It is a politician, a minister. mwamfate icho chalirenga nomba ifyakulya file eshupa, because time and again we've seen these ministers making wrong decisions. Vashitisha efyakulya fili muma reserves ilo nomba twamba okushupikwa nomba tulefumya kuisa efyakulya fimbi fyalafuma kuisa amabunga abakweta amabunga private millers bamba okudulisha mwamfate. So ilya issue nga tatwakachite address the way food reserve management is supposed to be undertaken in our country, will be running the same circle time and again. Twakula isanga fili yonse nga yafike nchita ya mfula nchita ya mayinsa fino nishinsala yapo na mayanda. So if we issue light of Zambia twaishiwa kwa ikwaliba very critical or should I say tier that these politicians have neglected, which is the chiefdom again. I'm still going back to the chiefdom. So we believe in the light of Zambia that if yakulya, or should I say FRA, Food Reserve Agency, is supposed to be devolved to the chiefdom level and also to national level. So now this is what should be happening. If yakulya abantu nga basombola kufuire kwaba what we would call household food security. Panganda pamya ndifu yanaisho bushetulya, for example tsako twamata batunga pakwati mwaka upo. Mwamfate? Kuli ifofwe balima. Twalabika limbya tuli 10, limbya tuli 5, limbya tuli 20. Then if you put it up, because I need to sell and have some cash. If you put it up, I can sell now to the chiefdom. You see, the food reserve agents at chiefdom level. So when I sell that, amasheds our FRA should be in each and every chiefdom. You see that? So nga tuwashitisha kuli ba chiefdom B. Emonjikala mu chiefdom B nabapera fyefpulirepo after nasunge fyakulya panganda pamyandi fyakumpuisha omwaka nashitisha filya ba chiefdom B barayizusha amasheds yabo nabo balishwa abantu bakwata mu chiefdom yabo, so they know kwebati for example, for this chiefdom to have sufficient food throughout the year, we need maybe to keep 10,000 metric tons of maize. You see that? So vala sunga ila 10,000 metric tons. Vavika, then if there will be any surplus, that is now what should go to National Strategic Food Reserve. So what is going to the National Strategic Food Reserve? Fyakulya if yobafuira okupera kuma chiefdom za ashirima mwamfate kwali ama chiefdom za ikala munchende wakwate eti mulime, their land is not arable. Kwali ba ama chiefdom za kwebati limbi kwapo na disaster, something has just happened in such a place, they need to be held by the state. So if the National Strategic Food Reserve efifire nomba okuya mukupelwa kuli bali abantu abali mu bwafya mwapumate. So for example, if chiefdom B produces a lot of maize, for example, then chiefdom C does not have enough maize, then we can encourage chiefdom to chiefdom trading of grains. Valeta kankomba therefore amunshitire kwa matabaya so na so mu chiefdom myandi tamuli amatabaya kumanine. Remember bale kwata CDF, Chiefdom Development Fund. You see that? So they will have money to use, and of course we are going to increase that because we'll have a lot more money coming into the country after nationalization. You see that? So kuti bashitishanya from chiefdom to chiefdom, so that chiefdom yakwata efyakulya ifiringire abantu baiko. Now again, it's not enough just to devolve food reserve agents to chiefdom level. Instead, what is needed again is to make sure that FRA is the mandate of FRA is broadened, not just holding grains and marketing them. We want them to start producing their own meal meal. So what do we have to do then? We have to make sure that each FRA branch in every chiefdom must have a milling plant. You see that? They must have a milling plant to be able to produce their own meal meal. Because when they produce their own meal meal, they'll set their own price. Unlike the current situation where they give maize to private millers. When these private millers, remember a private miller, their interest is simply to maximize on profits. So when they get this maize from these from these shades that we have dotted across the nation, them they are going to take advantage of the low cost of of buying the maize so that they can generate more profit. Balabika omutengo pamuulu so that bena baliemu highest. Elo balafa no kuli market kuli omutengo osuma. So there will be nothing that will stop them from exporting their produce. You see? So now what we are saying is that is not workable for us. We have definitely to find a solution that will enable us stop crying about food. You see that? As long as we do not implement a system like the one I'm talking about here, kila mwaka twakulayirisha nyatifu yakulya fya shupa yo obunga bwadula yo president nafirwa ni system eirengere president yokumoneka okufirwa mleyomva ne
twatota
nimkwa